Section 7.3, the multiplication principle. In Chapter 8, we will be studying probability. And probability is simply how likely something is to happen. Okay, so I'm going to jot that down. Probability is how likely something is to happen. Okay, so for example, what is the probability of you winning the Powerball if you went out and bought a ticket? Okay, unfortunately, not very likely, but if you studied probability, you could compute your exact chances of winning the Powerball game. Okay, so those are the types of things we're going to look at in Chapter 8. Okay, but before we do that, in the remainder of Chapter 7, we are going to study counting techniques. Okay, because much of probability depends upon counting. Okay, now when I say counting, I don't mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When I talk about counting, I mean counting the number of possible outcomes for a particular situation. Okay, so I'm going to jot that down. By counting, I mean counting the number of possible outcomes in a given situation. Okay, so if you see in the next bullet point, okay, there are several principles to simplify counting large numbers of objects. Okay, so what that's saying is there's lots and lots of counting techniques you could actually use. Our focus in the remainder of Chapter 7, so sections 7.3 and 7.4, will be on the multiplication principle and then permutations and combinations. Okay, those three things, multiplication principle, permutations, combinations, those are the counting techniques that we're really going to focus on so that once we get to Chapter 8, probability will, hopefully come easier to us. Okay. All right. So in section 7.3, we're going to focus on the multiplication principle. And then when we move on to section 7.4, we will take a look at both permutations and combinations. Okay. Again, these are just counting techniques. Okay. And you will use them in chapter 8 when you get to probability. Okay. All right. So before I tell you exactly what the multiplication principle is, let's do an example. Okay. So in example 1, it says a toy company makes red, green, blue, and yellow plastic cars, trucks, and planes. How many different kinds of toys do they make? Okay. So in part A, it says to solve this by making a tree diagram. Okay. So again, read through the question, make sure you understand what's being asked here and what the toy company is making. Okay. Focus here on the question. Okay. The question is saying how many different kinds of toys do they make? Okay. So the answer should actually be a number and not the specific toys themselves, although you could list them out if you wanted to. Okay. But again, the final answer to the question will be how many different kinds of toys that this company makes. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what a tree diagram is. Okay. So basically, you're going to draw this little, it's like a diagram and it looks like a tree, but what it's doing, it's counting all the different possibilities. Okay. So when I read this problem, okay, I say, okay, the toy company is making cars, trucks, and planes. Okay. And each car, truck, and plane is made in a different color, whether it be red, green, blue, or yellow. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list the objects that they're making here. Okay. So they are making cars, okay, trucks, and they're also making planes. Okay. Let me move this up a little bit so I don't bump it. Okay. All right. So I'm just listing out the things that this company is making. Okay. So then I'm going to add the other layer of the problem to this. Okay. Every single toy, whether it be a car, truck, or a plane, it comes in 4 different colors. So watch what I do, okay? Cars come in red, green, blue, and yellow, okay? So what I did was just take, all the cars and indicate, okay, the types of the different colors that the cars come in, okay? And you see when I drew it in like that, it now looks like a tree, the branches of a tree, okay? And you could do the same thing with trucks, okay? Trucks are also going to come in red, green, blue, and yellow, okay? And then same thing for planes. Planes are also going to come in red, green, blue, and yellow, okay? And so this is really visual, okay? This tree diagram is going to help us list out, if we had to, all the possible toys that this company makes, okay? Watch, I could do that, okay? We could have if I'm starting up here, okay, R car, okay, so red car, okay, and then go down the line, G car, so green car, okay, and then B car, okay, so blue car, and then Y car, so yellow car, okay. So there are 4 possibilities for the cars, okay, 1 for each color, basically, okay. And then you could do the same thing if you were listing out the possibilities for trucks, okay. There's a red truck, there's a green truck, a blue truck, and a yellow truck, okay. And then finally, you could do the same thing with the planes, okay. So for the planes, I have a red plane, a green plane, a blue plane, and lastly, a yellow plane. Okay, so there you go. I've listed out all the different possible toys that this company can make. Okay, so again, that is not what the question was asking. Okay, the question was asking how many different kinds of toys do they make. Okay, you could just count these up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so the company is making 12 different kinds of toys. Okay, now specifically, they're listed out. Okay, if you wanted to know the specific toys that the company was making, they're listed out right here. We did that. Okay, but if you count up the total number of toys, okay, you get 12 different kinds that they're making. Okay, all right, in part B, okay, it says solve the same problem but using the multiplication principle. Okay, I haven't even told you what the multiplication principle is yet. Okay, but I'm going to tell you now. Okay. All right, so basically you are going to use the multiplication principle when you have choices, okay? So if you had a child and your child were trying to pick out one of these toys, okay? The child would have choices, okay? First they would select, the type of toy. Do they want a car, a truck, or a plane? Okay? So that's the first choice. And then once they make that selection, there's another choice to be made. Okay, they have to choose the color they want. Is the color going to be red, green, blue, or yellow? Okay, so basically you use the multiplication principle when there are choices to be made. Okay, so again, all we were doing in this problem is simply counting the number of different kinds of toys that the company makes. Okay, so to apply the multiplication principle to this, okay, I am going to put 2 blanks down, okay? The blanks represent my choices, okay? I first had a choice for the type of toy, okay? And then once I made that selection, then there was another choice I had, and that was for the color of the toy, okay? So here we go. All you have to do, because again, we're trying to come up with the total number of different types of toys that this company makes, okay? We're going to write down how many choices we have for each blank, okay? So how many types of toys are possible? Well, there's 3 here, okay? Because we're choosing from car, truck, and plane, okay? So there's 3 different types of toys to be chosen from. So you would put a 3 in this blank, okay? And then you're going to write down the number of possibilities for the color of the toy. Okay, there's 4 options. Okay, because your choices are red, green, blue, and yellow. Okay, so you have 3 choices for the type of toy. You have 4 options for the color of the toy, and then hence the name multiplication principle, you multiply those guys together. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so that's another way you could have gotten the answer. Okay, that there are 12 different types of toys that this company is making. Okay, so it's probably a lot easier to do the counting with the multiplication principle. Okay, because you didn't have to list out all the different types of toys. Okay, but that again is a drawback. You don't get a list of all the different possibilities. You just get a final count of how many options are possible. Okay, but it is less work. Okay, so this is just like your little introduction to the multiplication principle. Okay, you're trying to count how many outcomes are possible, and you're going to use this when you have choices. Okay, all right, let's try another one.